Greetings, folks. This is Abnormal Psychology, and today's lecture will be regarding generalized anxiety disorder. So, this is another form of anxiety that exists discreetly enough to name it as a separate disorder. It is characterized primarily by an unfocused worry that is ongoing, that moves around from topic to topic. It's essentially a free-floating anxiety that looks for a place to land. And it lands wherever the mind of the bearer of this disorder happens to seize it. So this worry is about inconsequential things or very unlikely things. So it's not something that is about actually possible things or likely things. It's not about that, okay? In addition, you'll find, though not usually reported, that people with GAD have a large, substantial startle reaction. So someone with GAD, when you're coming around the corner and you run into them, they'll jump and scream and that kind of thing, and whatever. And this has a lot to do with the disorder because this can be so pervasive in its presentation as to how often someone worries that they're worrying much of the time, and so they're distracted, and you run into them, and whoa, here we go. Okay, so as I said, the worry is unfocused. That means that it's not necessarily sharpened about a single issue, and it's not about solving the problem of a single issue, okay? There's no problem solving involved in these worries. And it may be that there can't be any, but more likely than not, what happens is that the person goes through some worrying about one thing, does not resolve it, does not ask questions to themselves about what they could do to fix this worry item, and then they move on to the next thing. Okay, so in the DSM-5, you have to have 3 or more of the following symptoms, and generally you have all of them: restlessness, keyed up, on edge, very much out of energy, fatigued. You get tired easily, and in fact look tired all the time, because anxious worrying robs you of emotional and then physical energy. Pretty simple. Not able to concentrate, mind will go blank, forget where they are or what they came into the room for, which can be an age-related memory thing, but people with GAD of any age will do this. Irritability that stems from ongoing frustration with the anxiety that they have, and they usually know it's not rational, but in some cases, people with GAD will imagine that their worrying serves some protective feature. So if I worry about my stepson, then and he's never had an accident, then my worrying must be some kind of protective thing. They're also rewarded by culture, because we have a habit of, particularly for women, having them believe that worrying is a sign of love. And so if I worry, I'm loving. It's this kind of a secondary gain, in a way. And then they also get muscle tension and sleep disturbance. Those are the other 2 things on that list of 3 or more of the following. So this causes impairment when it's moderate to severe. And it typically causes impairment not just in the physical toll, the emotional toll of the individual, but it also causes a toll in the relationships that they have. It's very difficult for them to be interested in things like sexual activity in a romantic relationship, or to listen carefully when someone's talking to them. They're busy worrying about something, and so it does cause impairment in moderate to severe cases. On average, most people don't worry very much. About 40% of the country worry only about 1 to 10 minutes a day. 24% worry less than 1 minute, and only about 20% go from, say, 1 hour to 2 hours. Okay? Gives you an idea. Well, 20% is a lot of people. That doesn't necessarily mean that those who worry that much are, in fact, those who have this disorder, but it gives you an idea of what's normal. Okay, about 1% of adolescents and about 3% of adults, peaks in middle age and declines thereafter in prevalence, if you're looking at numbers. And females are twice as likely as males. Europeans and those from developed countries are more likely to develop this. My own perspective would be that there is a lot of technology and things to worry about, more things to worry about in essence, when a country is wealthier. Okay, so in terms of risk factors, the temperamental issues would be behavioral inhibition in childhood. You'd see that as a precursor to the potential to develop this. It's a correlated feature. And then a negative affectivity. Yeah? We've talked about this many times, haven't we? So in the environment, parental overprotectiveness can be a root contributing cause. And that means that what we think is going on is that when parents overprotect, the children don't know how to solve problems, and so they emerge into the world once on their own, finding themselves worrying about how to get things done and what's going to happen, and so there you go. And then we think childhood abuse it looks like it's a contributing factor in some cases. And then in terms of genetic and physiological, it's 1/3 risk is thought to be genetic in origin. Okay. Well, so what do we know about genetics beyond that? Well, we know that family studies indicate that 15% of relatives will display this disorder or symptoms of it, and it's greater in monozygotic or identical twins than dizygotic fraternal twins. But we think really what's happening is that the tendency to be anxious, to have a trait level of anxiety, is higher in people with disorder to start with, as opposed to a specific kind of anxiety disorder that it's connected to, you see. All right. We see in EEG lots of cognitive processing in people with this disorder, as you might imagine. We see the worrying as potentially a sign of avoidance, and so those are two interesting things, aren't they? The first to be expected, the second not so much. So in cognitions, how can worrying be a form of avoidance? Well, it's an avoidance because the worrying takes place of the problem solving. Okay. All right. Well, so how do we treat this? Well, cognitive behavior therapy, perhaps even just cognitive therapy. Medication only when severe, and there are medications like Buspar that can serve well. That's a 2 to 3 doses per day, is not addictive. Few side effects maybe that have to be just accepting for a time until they subside. Relaxation training and biofeedback, or neurofeedback sometimes called. We want to shoot it with all the guns we have, and combination of treatments. So what we would start with in a therapeutic standpoint is teaching them psychoeducationally about what anxiety is and what worrying is, and the different ways in which it's not productive. We would assign them, with their help, of course, and then we would assign them homework as to be aware of the cognitive and the physical or somatic symptoms associated with this problem. Yes? And as things go along, the client is actually becoming very skilled at identifying what the worrying is all about, and that it's counterproductive, and how it affects them negatively. Okay, that which offers plenty more in terms of motivation. So we also want to challenge their maladaptive assumptions. So whenever a client is talking about the need to worry if you love, or the need to worry to prevent something bad from happening, we want to challenge that and assign related homework. Now, there's not a lot of research on the efficacy of these treatments for GAD, but personally I've treated this disorder many times and have had good success when a client is motivated to really look at their own thinking about things. That's a key. Okay, the findings are positive. I don't mean to misrepresent the findings, but there's not as much finding on this as there are for, say, panic disorder. Now, when we teach them how to use relaxation techniques, we're talking about the standard stuff: deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, thought stopping, which is a good one for these folks, and related kinds of things. And it's much better than no treatment or placebo, and it's really great when you use it in combination with the cognitive aspects. Okay. Now, this neurofeedback and biofeedback is nothing more and nothing less than measuring your brain waves with little. You can get an app on your phone for this, for crying out loud nowadays. You get a tape that registers enough electrical activity to determine the relative activity of your brain, and can then display it on your phone. And it can tell you when you're in a relaxed state or a highly processing state, a more anxious state, and you can learn fairly quickly to know what the experience internally is of having a relaxed brain state. And you can learn what works and what doesn't, and within a very short period of time, be able to reach that state without any device at all. But we like to use those if we can have the client agree to those. The app and the headband is not expensive. It isn't used as much as it used to be. It used to be used a lot for anxiety disorders, particularly GAD. It isn't used so much anymore, and I'm not sure why. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure that out. Okay, so I think you need to know that medication is used inappropriately sometimes, maybe often, to treat this. I think physicians are perhaps too quick on the trigger to assign a benzodiazepine to this disorder, and within a very short period of time that can create an addiction, which is then another issue to have to figure out how to help them with. So we don't want to see any of the benzos used for this. Okay, so that's it for generalized anxiety disorder. Thank you for watching.